Hi, this is Dave. Got a special treat today. I'm going to be talking with Steve Miller, who is a expert in personal branding. So we're gonna get the insight on that. Steve, you want to introduce yourself? I mean, give us a little background.
Well, I thank you so much for inviting me to participate today, Dave. I am, like you say, I'm basically a marketing and branding specialist. I've been that for many years, and during that time, built my wife and I built our own, two-person business. She's a very established, successful salesperson.
Mhm.
And so in the course of doing all of this, and we would be consulting for small businesses and organizations around the world, we became well known for our personal branding.
Hmm.
And so the as we became known for it, we started to ask ourselves the question, okay, what are we doing to make our personal brand important, and
Hmm.
why is it important?
Hmm.
And from that, it kind of morphed into doing more teaching and consulting and
Hmm.
speaking on that topic.
Well,
So,
so,
in my latest book, which is right here, it's called Uncopyable You, which is completely a personal branding book written by my wife and I.
yeah, great. So the first question is, what do you mean by personal branding?
Well, the simplest way to think about it is when you're not around, what do people say about you?
Hmm.
It's kind of that simple. I
Hmm.
mean, how do they describe you? What kind of words, what kind of uh, adjectives do they use to describe you?
Hmm.
That type of thing. And is that good? And is that important to you
Hmm.
to make sure that they're saying the right stuff?
Yeah, let me just dig into that. Is that important to you? So, if like for me, it's important because of what I do for a living. I want people to hire me, and so they have to think good things about me. But if I'm a if I'm a CEO, I've got maybe $1 million business, or I'm an entrepreneur. I get $2 or $3 million business, or trying to work towards that. Why would I even be concerned? Why would
Well,
I care?
it's really your decision whether you want to be. The bottom line is that whether you try to develop a personal brand or not on purpose, uh, you do have a personal brand.
Hmm.
I mean, it's as simple as just saying when somebody like I say, when somebody talks about you, do they say, "Oh boy, Dave, he's the funniest guy I ever met."
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know about Dave is that, and you mentioned it, and I'm gonna bring it right up right now. You mentioned it to me earlier. Christ-centered life.
Hmm.
And something like that is an important message,
Okay.
for people to know about you,
Yeah.
and because people are going to draw pictures
Hmm.
about people that they maybe have not met yet,
Hmm.
maybe have not spent time with. So,
Hmm.
like, even when you talk about somebody and like you and I, obviously, it's easy to understand that a personal brand for us is a big deal.
Yeah.
How is that? Is it a big deal to CEOs? Well, look at the CEOs who are well known, they're famous, they actually are very proactive about being well known and famous,
Hmm.
and they do it because they are the mouthpiece of their company,
Sure.
and they want people to say, "Oh yeah, if that company's pretty rock solid
Yeah.
because John Doe over there, man, you can
Yeah.
count on him or her."
Yeah, that like I have this a thing that I talk about a lot, and that's excellence and influence. Excellence being what we strive for, and influence being what comes out of excellence. And we ought to strive for both excellence and influence. So that kind of really fits your concept of what do they say about you when you're not there. Okay, well, yeah, how about a couple steps? What should I do if I'm a CEO? And I want to improve what people say about me when I'm not there. What should I
Well,
do?
it starts with, first of all, and there's an old saying about CEOs, presidents, stuff like that. The bottleneck is at the top of the bottle.
Okay.
All right. So it would behoove anybody who is a leader to be to try to make sure that they're not known as a bottleneck.
Hmm.
Okay, that they are a fixer. They believe in their employees. They support their employees, and they're very proactive about it. Okay, and that's how you start to build your personal brand, is by being proactive about things that you want to be known for.
Hmm. So can you
Uh,
give me an example, Steve? Like, what does that look like in real life?
well, let's talk about people that we know, and
Okay.
and in our book, we talk about people alive and dead,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
but who have been famous for whatever reason. Like if you think about Steve Jobs
Hmm.
when he was at Apple, that odds are what you think of is this guy is out of the box,
Yeah.
right? His, the designs that he comes up with, the
Hmm.
solutions that he's coming up.
Hmm.
Clearly, this guy is out of the box. And you can say that is so important to him. It's so important to him that he makes sure that that's all he focuses on. And that other parts of his life are managed so that they don't interfere with that. So, for example, everybody knew that he wore a black mock turtleneck and a pair of jeans every day.
Hmm.
So, and the reason why was because he didn't want to have to mess around with something as little,
Yeah.
you and
Yeah.
I might go,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, what do we wear, right? But
Yeah.
from him, he saw that as an interference.
Yeah.
And so he completely got rid of that so that he could go focus on stuff that helped him to be creative and like I say, think out of the box.
So if I'm you giving advice to somebody who wants to know what should I do, what I'm hearing you say maybe a first step is to list those things that you want to be known for. I
That's
mean,
right.
and that's some introspection and some reflection and some of those things. And is there a list? I mean, is there a size? Is it 3, 10, 20? Is there something like
The
that?
answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. It could just be one thing.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as like with Jobs was and actually Jobs had a couple of things. One was but the main thing was that he said our job is to make the world's life easier.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't make it complicated for
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
But in order to help people have an easier life, he has to create something that within the Apple world was
Right.
very complicated.
Right. Yep.
But it translated into something that was much, much simpler and much easier. The
Mm,
mouse, the
sure.
that
Sure.
type of stuff.
Yeah.
That wow, it just impacted the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm reminded of the movie City Slickers. Do you remember City Slickers?
100%. The
Yeah,
one thing.
and yeah,
The
well,
one
that's
thing.
right. And so who was it? The little guy, I forget his name,
Billy
who's
Crystal.
that's it, playing the guy from New York and his cowboy mentor, and he
Yeah,
asked him that's
Jackie
it.
Lamb was his
That's
was
it.
his was his mentor.
Yeah, you do
Amazing,
know
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And he says, "What's the secret?" And he says, "One thing. Focus on one thing." Yeah. Would you recommend one thing, Steve, or would you
I
recommend
would I
more?
would say I would say that let's start there.
Hmm.
Okay. I
Hmm.
see. I would say to somebody would say to me, and they ask me, they go, how do I build a personal brand? I say, okay, what do you stand for? What do you stand? Tell me who you are.
Hmm.
And if you really start thinking about it, you know who you are. You
Yeah.
you you know how you see the world. You know how you treat people. You know how you treat animals. I
Hmm.
mean, you know that stuff, and
Hmm.
you say, this is who I am. I would say that I can list two or three things that are very important to me,
Hmm.
that I stand for. And you say,
Hmm.
here we go. That's our starting point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we got a starting point, identify what you want to be known for. Okay, let's say I've done that. Now what? Anything
Well,
else? What should I be doing now?
Well, how do you share that? See, that's the thing in order to have a personal brand, people need to, when they think, again, it goes right back to the simple definition. When people think of you, what do they think? When people
Hmm.
talk about you, what do they say? So when you come up with two or three things that you want to stand for, you have to represent those.
Hmm.
And you have to represent those, and I'm going to say out loud. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to say the words, okay? But it has to be very clear to people that you represent that.
Hmm.
Do you represent standing up for the poor?
Hmm.
Do
Hmm.
is that super important to you or not?
Hmm.
And taking care of people, and yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
and I.
okay, okay. So when you say represented, how would one do that exactly?
So think about this. My wife and I talk about them in anchors and triggers. And
Okay.
what we say is, okay, like for us, we have some anchors and triggers that we have established. And you named one of them right out of the box when we first met. When we said hello to each other, you said Kelly's dad,
Yep.
right? Okay, so Kelly's dad is who I am.
Okay.
The day Kelly was born, I started labeling myself as Kelly's dad.
Okay.
And then I kind of backed it up with a two-word phrase, marketing gunslinger.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is a very important two phrases. Kelly's dad, marketing gunslinger, and it's also important in the order. Okay. So Kelly's dad tells people who I am.
Hmm.
And the way I represent that is I establish rules for being Kelly's dad that in the business world they have to pay attention to.
Such as.
Kelly's birthday, August 16th, it's a national holiday.
Oh, okay.
We celebrate it here. We have encouraged our clients over the 32 years she has now been
Mm-hmm.
around. Okay, is we encourage them to celebrate Kelly's birthday. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means you either go out and you do something nice for a local charity, you take care of you do something for people, and or you donate to something.
Hmm.
I mean, just the point being is that we started to celebrate this national holiday. We have dozens of clients who have on their own in their own companies celebrated Kelly's birthday.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
So that's an example. Another example is the word uncopyable.
I was
Okay.
going to ask you about that. Uncopyable.
Uncopyable,
Okay.
because it's not enough to be the best.
Hmm.
Being the best is a temporary situation.
Hmm.
Okay, because when you're good at something, people try to just get better
Sure.
than you,
Sure.
right?
Right.
So you want to be able to do something that is just plain, it's uncopyable. People
Hmm.
cannot copy it. You are different. And as Kay and I make very sure that we tell everybody, we say nobody does business with you because you are similar to the competition.
Mm.
They do business with you because you are different than the
Hmm.
competition. Okay, they know
Hmm.
that you're different. Now, what makes you different? The word uncopy. We tell people, let's figure out a way to be uncopyable. Even if it's in an intangible situation, you still look for ways to be uncopyable. Now, what represents uncopyable in our world? The color orange. We say to people, that's an anchor and a trigger. Every time you see the color orange, you should think about how do I be uncopyable? What am I seeing I seeing around me at the moment? We always teach people. I learned this from W. Edwards Deming many years ago
Mhm.
when he taught me about benchmarking. And he said benchmarking is when you watch somebody else do something and then you emulate
Mhm.
from that. He said the
Mhm.
problem is that too many people emulate just by simply copying.
Mhm.
And so the competitors all look alike and act alike because they're just studying each other. And he
Mhm.
said, in order to create true uncopyable uh, ideas, products, experiences, that type of stuff, he says you have to study things that don't belong in your world.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to study things that are outside your realm, outside the habits that you're used to,
Yeah.
outside what everybody else does. And he said, and that's very uncomfortable, but that's the only way you can do it. And
Yeah.
so what we teach our clients is that the color orange, every time they see the color orange, ask themselves, is there something around that is foreign to them, alien to them? And is there a way to take that and bring it into the box that you're working in
Yeah.
and turn it into something brand new?
Yeah. Well, that's we think a lot alike. I've long maintained that you only learn from somebody who disagrees with you or does not agree with you, has other thoughts. And one of my clients said this to me a number of years ago. I never will forget it. He says he tries to have lunch once a month with a good thinker outside of the industry.
Boom. That's
Perfect. Yeah,
exactly what I call it.
exactly
We
perfect.
call it we
Yeah,
call it stealing genius.
yeah, yeah. That's a
So
nice
it's
term.
actually the
Yeah,
title of one of our books, and
yeah,
that's it's that simple. It's not complicated.
right, right. Yeah,
Expose yourself, and we call them aliens.
yeah,
You expose yourself to somebody who is not, like you say, not traditional,
yeah,
outside the box. Steve
yeah.
Jobs was known for bringing people in. He was a stealing genius master,
Hmm.
and he would bring people into Apple meetings who were painters,
Mm,
kindergarten teachers,
hmm.
uh, um, lifeguards.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he
yeah.
would bring
Hmm.
people in who had absolutely nothing to do with Apple Computer, and he would sit down with them, put them all in one room, and he'd say, "Let's talk about new stuff, new
Yeah,
ideas."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, what a great idea. Yeah. And I think that's
Well, your
sometimes I
friend, your
think
friend is doing it.
well, I think about the opposite of that, which is I see this in our society right now, and that is the impact of social media. All you have to do is show interest in something, and that's all you're going to see for the next couple of weeks. And so what happens is that you only hear from people who agree with you,
Right.
and that causes this polarization in our country. I believe has got a lot to do with social media because we only hear from people who agree with us. That's all we see. And so we just think that our ideas are the greatest when in fact they could
Yeah,
be
and
really way off. Yeah,
technology has made it easy for us to just see stuff that support and reinforce the way we think.
yeah.
And it
Well,
does not teach it doesn't, we don't learn that you're not going to learn something new
yeah,
if you don't step away from what you look at every day.
yeah. Well, so back to some practical. That's the name of the podcast, Practical Wisdom. So practical. What would I say to, again, CEO or sales manager who's taking this to heart, saying, okay, I understand so far, but next week, what should I do? What should I do? Close in, behavioral, what should I do?
I would say deliberately expose yourself and immerse yourself into a very uncomfortable and foreign environment.
Okay.
Give you an example. I was consulting for Caterpillar, and they were based outside of Chicago.
Mhm.
And so one day I got a bus, threw all the executives into the bus. We drove into downtown Chicago, and I said, we're going to go visit the American Girl store, doll store,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Did your daughter have an American Girl doll?
I don't think she did.
Okay. All right. My daughter did, and she
Okay.
wanted, and she just loved it. But you see, here's the thing: these guys, we're going to a doll store.
Hmm.
I said, yeah, we're going to a
Hmm.
doll store, and I want you to go into that doll store, and I want you to take as many notes as you possibly can, and so that we can tomorrow we're going to go sit down and we're going to say, what can we steal from the American Girl store, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they were so upset that I was taking them to the American Girl store because this has nothing to do with construction. This has nothing
Hmm.
to do with farming. This doesn't have anything to do with
Hmm.
it, right? Okay. It took me 4 hours to get them out of there.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
They couldn't take notes fast enough.
Yeah.
And so the next day it was like it was just a whirlwind of ideas coming out of these guys saying, "Oh, did you see the way they ran a hair salon?"
Yeah. Yeah.
For dolls.
Yeah.
Did you see this? Did you see that? What can we do with that? And one of the examples uh, uh, is that now in the Chicago area, they've got a fantastic museum, Caterpillar Museum, and if you walk through there, uh, you could walk through there and you could say, "Oh, they, that's from the American Girl store."
Yeah.
Right? Stuff
Well,
like
let's
even their instruction, even their
yeah.
teaching drivers, the way they interact with people, they all those things all impacted them. But it was brand new stuff.
So we've talked about finding what you stand for, representing it. We've talked about being uncopyable. We're talking about, intentionally, proactively exposing yourself to new and different ideas. So, anything else that we could kind of list there? Say these are things you could do. What else would you do? Would you suggest to my listeners to do to improve their personal brand, to make people, when you're not around, they think of you, they think good things. What else would you do?
What else would I do? You know
Yeah.
what? We just gave them a lot. And if they are able to go do the stuff that we've just shared, that is a huge step for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do, and this is something that I've taught my clients over years and years, and it takes a long time. And that is is every chance you have, wherever you are, stop and ask yourself, what can I steal? You could be in a Starbucks
Mhm.
and the list I've made clients, I've taken them out for a cup of coffee at Starbucks or something like that, and I sit down and then I say to them, okay, get out your notepad, write down everything you see,
Mhm.
write down everything you see, and tell me which of these can you steal and go use in your own company. So in
Mhm.
other words, and that I've done it at Major League Baseball games.
Okay.
I've done it. I've done it at restaurants. I've done it. Just
Mhm.
out with people out in the middle of downtown somewhere, and I will stop my client and I will just say, "Stop, take a look all around, start taking notes, and tell me what you see."
Well, Steve, good thoughts. And, we're coming towards running out of time here. So, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or get more of your stuff, what would they do?
We have a little gift for everybody. It's a 5-day email program about personal branding.
Oh,
About
okay.
setting up your personal branding. And
Hmm.
if you go to the website beuncopyable.com
Beuncopyable.com. Okay.
slash the number 5 dash emails, you can sign up for it's free. Um, we do we're not the kind of company that sends out a ton of stuff.
Okay.
We're more interested in just sharing with people. If you like it, you'll let us know, and
Okay.
that
And
type of
you've
stuff.
got
So
you got some books as well. Yeah,
absolutely, you
yeah.
got the book.
And
Here's the one. Here's the
all
one
right.
we've been talking about. This is Uncopyable You.
Okay.
We were very fortunate, very, very blessed that on the day it came out, I couldn't believe it. On the day it came out, it knocked off a Disney book off the #1 Amazon list, and
Mm.
it just came out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
good.
We did
Yeah,
we did
good for
not
you.
see that coming at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good for
So
you.
we're very lucky about that. So, and of
Yeah,
course, you can
good.
reach it. You can read, through beuncopyable.com. You can contact us. Hey,
Okay.
ask, you got questions? Let me know.
Yeah,
I'm happy
sure,
to
sure,
answer the questions.
sure. Okay. Well, lots of good stuff, Steve. I really appreciate it. Hey, before I go, you and I had a little bit of a conversation about the role of Christ in your life and
Yeah,
in your practice. You
yeah.
want to just kind of talk about that a little bit?
You know, the only way I could talk about it is just by saying, hey, look, I believe in Christ. He has been amazingly important to me in my world. I grew up with muscular dystrophy,
Hmm.
and through Christ's support uh, and belief in me, I was
Hmm.
able to get past all of that
Hmm.
and live a really, really great life. As I mentioned to you, I got to know my minister mentor, Dr.
Hmm.
Robert Schuller, many years ago. He was, he and I used to get together for lunch, and we were doing things. I was doing Stealing Genius with Christ.
Hmm.
I would say, what is, the old, what would Jesus do, right?
Hmm.
I would think, okay, if Jesus were running this business right now,
Hmm.
what would he do?
Hmm. Yeah,
And
good thought. Yeah,
if he needed to come up with a new idea, what would he do?
yeah.
And I just have been so blessed by his presence in my life and my family's life. Um, I just keep telling people, you
Yeah,
can't go wrong.
yeah, yeah. Good. Okay. Well, it's been great talking with you, Steve. We're going to sign off. Okay, that's it. We're done. Bye bye.